John. Thanks. Well, we've all heard of fetal alcohol syndrome, but there's a lesser-known condition called fetal alcohol spectrum disorder that's just as serious. And joining me today is Chris Rife. Her son lives with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder and wants to bring more awareness to this condition. Chris, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for spreading the message.
Now, I've always only heard of fetal alcohol syndrome or fetal alcohol disease, but what is that in comparison to fetal alcohol spectrum disorder?
Well, fetal alcohol syndrome is easily recognized because of some facial features I think you can see on the screen.
Okay.
And that happens when the birth mother or mother is drinking during a pregnancy, only in that first month of pregnancy, when very often they're not even aware they're pregnant yet.
Right, exactly.
Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is when there is alcohol consumption any other time in the pregnancy where it affects the fetus.
Okay.
It doesn't always affect the fetus,
yeah,
but they're really finding out through genetics how some babies are affected and others aren't, and it doesn't take an awful lot to cause some really grave effects.
Wow, and why are the CDC and Health and Human Services Administration now really spending time and money to educate people about FASD?
Right. South Carolina, we had 38 people trained this year. Went to California, and 38 of us were trained to identify areas within the state that need to learn about fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, because early diagnosis, like with many things, early intervention improves the outcomes.
Right.
And it also decreases the costs to states, and physicians are not trained in fetal alcohol spectrum disorders.
Yeah.
It's an invisible disability.
Wow.
And so often the kids get an ADHD diagnosis, and it's not till much later when there's repeated problems that they say, hey, something more than ADHD is going on here.
Exactly.
And if there's a history of maternal drinking, then they can kind of guess at the diagnosis. But in adoption situations, very often in Eastern European adoptions, it's very prevalent.
Now, speaking of adoptions, your son Nicholas is now 19. You adopted him as a baby. And what are some of the challenges that he's faced with having FASD?
You know, I asked him, I hoped he could come with me today, but you know, he has good days and has not so good days, so he chose not to come today. He said that memory is probably his biggest challenge, because he can do something really well one day and the next day he's not able to do it. That's also a challenge for educators, because they see him doing it well one day.
Right, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, you're just doing it, yeah.
Yeah, and the next day he just, you know, he needs to learn all over again. And that's true with just daily life skills, and also rules of life, and just, you know, getting along. 52% of children and young adults with FASD will have some legal involvement. They have trouble keeping jobs, they have trouble keeping housing.
Well, yeah, but some, like Nicholas, they have a gift per se, and you say his is auditory, and he can
hear things.
Yeah,
he can hear things that you and I can't hear.
Okay.
And so we've said that's a gift, and he would like to pursue a career in sound engineering. So,
right. So he can live a pretty good life. But right quick, right? We only have a few seconds left. What can people do to find out more information about FASD and get involved in spreading the word?
The CDC has a site for fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, and it's important at Christmas time to talk about it, because make available mocktails instead of cocktails, because when you're pregnant you should be able to have something festive, so a mocktail is the way to go. Yeah.
All right, Chris, thank you so much, and give Nicholas our best, please.
I will do. Thank you.
All right. Well, up next is a battle of the bands right here in Charleston. 7 local bands are taking part, and details are coming up on Low Country Live.